Hey guys, so I'm back from all the hi-fi show coverages in Montreal, at AXPONA in Chicago, and it's been an absolute blast. So if you haven't checked out those videos, make sure you do. I'll link them in the description below for you to check out. I'm really happy with what we accomplished at these shows because it's a tough environment to get all your impressions in, all the footages. It's been a journey and a half, and I want you to be part of it, so make sure to watch those videos. But when I was in Montreal, I didn't just do coverages. I, spent quite a bit of moolah, right, on music. And these are not just any music. These are local artists in Montreal, and there's a lot of talented local artists in Montreal, right? So these are just amazing. I've been playing around with them with some CD players I'm reviewing, which will be very soon, and I'll talk more about these each individually in those reviews. But like, for example, like here, if you haven't heard of Dominique, right? Her music is absolutely just the vocals. It's one of the best. I mean, I love it. And I have all her music in LP and CD and so on, but I just thought I would buy this as a backup since it's like a limited edition. You know how it goes. But I've been playing these on these loudspeakers. This is the Acoustic Zen Crescendo MKII loudspeakers. And they're big boy speakers. They're quite substantial in size. They weigh about 125 pounds each. And these are actually my friend Adam's speakers. And he lives about 15 minutes away from me. He owns a high-end system. He owns multiple high-end speakers, including monitor audio, rhythm audio, and so on. And he called me one day and he was like, hey, you gotta come and listen to these speakers, and if you want to review them, take them, review them. People need to know more about this loudspeaker because it's just so amazing. And I thought, okay, you know what? Let me go to your place. You're only 15 minutes away from me, and see if I want to review it in my place. Now, when I went to his place is much bigger than mine, right? And these speakers were pumping out bass, like unbelievable sheer amount of bass, to a point where I thought it was a bit too much, even in that room. So I was like, I don't know if this is gonna work in my room, man, because my room is smaller than yours, and yes, it's treated, but it's smaller than yours, and I feel like it's gonna overpower my room. But nevertheless, because I'm a lost cause of a nut job, I decided to haul them into my room just to try and see if it will work. And behold, they are here and it works, thankfully. But just a word of caution here, just because it works miraculously in my small to medium sized room doesn't mean that it's gonna work in everyone's small to medium sized rooms. In fact, I feel like this speaker will sound a lot better in a larger space than mine. And so I definitely see a limitation with the size of my room when reviewing a speaker of this size with this sheer amount of bass output and weight and extension. Now, this speaker is a whole package when it comes to the bass, really, because this is a full range speaker capable of down to 20 Hz plus minus 3 dB. So this speaker is able to really extend down low, and there's few contributing factors with a speaker like this that really doesn't need a subwoofer even in a medium to large size rooms. First is the drivers. It has two 8-inch paper cone underhung voice coil drivers. And if you see the slow motion of the excursion that's happening here, I mean, that's a lot of excursion for a speaker driver. Not to mention the thick surround on the speakers itself that it looks like it's out of a subwoofer. Looks like someone pulled it out of a subwoofer and put it into the speaker. It has some serious thick surrounds for a loudspeaker. And it's not just the drivers. On top of the drivers, this is a transmission line cabinet, which means that there is a maze-like structure inside the cabinet, and what that allows the cabinet to do is be relatively, and this is gonna be funny, relatively small for the bass output it's capable of. Yes, so meaning this speaker, despite being a 125-pound large full-size tower speaker, is able to put out bass like a much larger loudspeaker, is what I'm saying, which is ridiculous. And this is an obvious one, but we're not talking about like the Bucard S400 Mark II with a capable bookshelf speaker that's able to dig down low. We're talking about a floor standard, a full-size 125-pound monster speaker that is able to produce bass and scale that is bigger than even its size suggests. So just to give you a context of what kind of bass I'm talking about here. It's serious game here. And the top section that handles the mid-range and the high frequency is an MTM or Diapolito configuration, which means that it has two 5-inch underhung voice coil mid-range woofers, mid-woofers, and I believe they're also paper woofers. And in between them is a 2-inch horn-loaded ribbon tweeter. And of course, it has that waveguide for the ribbon tweeter to help with that dispersion, but the nature of the Diapolito kind of configuration also helps with dispersion of the tweeter as well. So it's like a double win there in terms of dispersion. And while I feel like this speaker is an extremely good speaker in the mid-range and high frequency, I've also found that this speaker varies quite a bit with the amplification that you try with the speaker. So it can vary from a pretty mediocre sound to something that is tremendously amazing. Like it blows my socks off, kind of amazing. And what do I mean by bad sound or something that I don't personally prefer? Well, this speaker can be really bright or really musical. And that really depends on the amplification that you put behind the speakers. I've tried like 7 or 8 different integrated amplifier all-in-ones, and I'll talk about a few of them that I think is a good match. So first thing is first, using the Arender N20 as my streamer and Live DAC as my DAC, which has been getting some hype these days, to my PS Audio Gold Stellar preamplifier, and that's what I used to compare different amplifiers in this video. And my favorite, bar none, favorite combination to the Acoustic Zen Crescendo was the NAT monoblocks that I have. These are the transmitters, and you see them in my videos all the time, and there's a good reason for it. It's one of my favorite piece of equipment for music playback of all time. It just makes everything sound so musical to me. That holographic imagery, when you pair with these speakers, the soundstage drop back, the width of the soundstage opens up, the depth, just the most deepest depth of soundstage and realistic lifelike holographic imagery of the singer, of the instruments you will ever experience. I mean, sorry, you may experience better, of course, but it's just tremendous amount of excitement when I plug these in. I've owned these for like 2 years now, and every single time I plug it in, I just go, wow, what the heck, right? And actually, Adam came over to listen to these, and when we switched to different amplifiers and then finally switched to the NAT monoblocks, now he wants to buy them because he was like, holy crap, I've never heard the Acoustic Zen Crescendos, sing like this. So it says a lot when the person that owns the speakers for a while now says that, right? So I was floored as well. It was just incredible amount of clarity, dynamics, refinement, and everything that I really would want in my system, right? It was filling up the room, just absolute astonishment. And you get that at low volumes as well as high volumes, like ear shredding level volumes, and it still doesn't offend. And it's just crazy amount of refinement in the high frequency, lifelike, again, sorry for the excitement, but that's how I truly feel about this combination. Now, my second favorite is tied. It's tied between the Tempo from AGD, which is a Gonfet Class D amplifier, and that gave really good bass texture, but also the Galion from Thomas. And not just because Thomas is another YouTuber here, he doesn't get any favors from me for my reviews. Those two, the Tempo and the Galion TSA75, was able to really pump out bass out of these speakers like none other. Now, yes, the NAT was my favorite, but in terms of the bass output, if you're in a large space and you need bass output, I mean, the Tempo and the Galion is about tied, but I would say the Galion has a little bit more output, but both of them just sheer, crazy, out of this world amount of bass, controlled bass, texture, nuance, punch, dynamics. Everything is incredible with this pairing. Remember, this is my top 3 pairing that I'm talking about right now. Now, both of these amplifiers, I was quite pleasantly surprised by how the mid-range and high frequency was still very refined. Maybe not at cranking levels. If you crank it too high, then it starts to fall apart sooner than the NATs, and the depth in the soundstage is not as deep as the NATs as well. It's not as holographic and all that, but both of them is able to push out those bass dynamics, have a really clear mid-range, and have surprisingly good depth in soundstage. Again, not as much as the NAT, but surprisingly deep soundstage. It doesn't sound 2D at all. And especially with the TSA-75, I was specifically surprised because when I paired it with other speakers, I found the mid-range and high frequency to be a little bit unrefined, grainy, but with these speakers, absolutely no problem. The mid-range and high frequency is quite refined. Not as refined, once again, as the NAT, but it's quite refined. I really love it, and I think this and the AGD Tempo is my second favorite tied. You can't go wrong either way with these speakers when you pair it up with these. And both of these amplifiers, I found that it's really good at low volumes as well, because it's able to give you that bass nuance even at low volumes. You know how sometimes you turn down the volume and you don't quite hear those bass notes? And that doesn't happen with these amplifiers. You hear the nuance, you hear the depth, you hear the bass notes even at low volumes. Now my third favorite is the ADCOM. Now I feel like it's not as good as the Galion or the AGD Tempo or the NAT, but that's just my opinion. I feel like a lot of people would appreciate this combination because the ADCOM is a high current design. It's really able to drive these speakers well. And while it may not have as much of a bass output capability as the NAT, Tempo, and the Galion, it still has tremendous amount of bass output. Remember what I said about the speakers in the beginning. Still tremendous amount of bass output. So unless you're in a big space, it may actually be in your favor to have not so much bass output, right? Unless you really want that bass to smack you in the chest and face all the time. So this has more than enough bass, and what I think that other people may appreciate more than I did about this combination is the neutrality. So out of all the combination I have tried, I feel like the ADCOM brings the most neutral sound with the Crescendo MKII loudspeakers here. And what I personally loved about the ADCOM combination here is that with the Crescendo MKII, it is probably the punchiest bass combination, right? With the ADCOM, it has the punchiest bass out of all the amplifiers I have tried. So if you don't care for so much of the pressurization and the extension of the bass, but you really want more punch and dynamics, like that punch to the gut, that tight bass, the ADCOM is a great choice. Now for the next one, removing the PS Audio preamplifier out of the chain because we're about to go integrated amplifier, and yes, the Brunoco Terra tube integrated amplifier is what I used. And again, because it has a volume control, I bypassed my PS Audio preamplifier. Now, this is such a unique combination, and it differs depending on the music you play. And this is what I mean. When you play EDM, when you play some hard rock, something like that, it is so snappy and exact in imagery, spotlit, it's fast, it's so fast, and in attack and decay, it's unbelievable. The spatial cues is unreal amount of tactility that you get. But when you turn on some vocals and jazz, that vocal is so holographic, musical, it's so beautiful. Now, why this isn't my favorite combination is because when you crank up to higher volumes, it's too much of a good thing for stuff like EDM, hard rock, metal, and stuff like that, right? So anything that has like a little bit of shouting, busyness, and a bit of sibilance in the recording, when you play it at high volumes, it's too much of a good thing. So it's not for high volume listening, but for low volume listening, absolutely astonishing with everything I put through it. But if you're someone that wants to play jazz, vocals at higher volumes, it is mesmerizing and it just simply melts me into my seat. Just gorgeous. So really good combination for certain music applications, but not really for busy music at high cranking volumes, like hard rock, EDM, and so on, like I said. Now next, these were my least favorites, but now we're going to all-in-one. So we're bypassing the O-render, we're bypassing the live DAC, we're bypassing the PS Audio preamplifier. We're using a standalone all-in-one. It does everything. You do everything in it. So the first one was the Cambridge Evo 150. Snappy, fast, high frequency like the Brunoco. I felt like the high frequency was a little bit more forward than the Brunoco and a bit more focused in terms of the spotlightness of the sound. So it's a bit more brittle and sharper. Imaging is spectacular and the separation within the soundstage was crazy. What personally stood out to me and what I liked about this combination in particular is the quiet background. It's extremely quiet with this combination, but it wasn't my favorite. And the reason this one and the next one that I'll talk about isn't my favorite is because for me, it's a little bit too clinical sounding. It is very snappy, fast, like I said, and some people may really appreciate that. But for me, it wasn't exactly my type of sound. The soundstage was okay, like the depth and the width was okay, but it was nothing crazy. The bass control was again fast, tactile, and punchy and dynamic, and deep in extension, but again, it was nothing crazy like the Galion, Tempo, or even the ADCOM, right? So for me, it was not great. It wasn't my favorite presentation as it was tilting a little bit more towards the bright side than neutral or warm, but I include it because I still think it's a good match for those that's looking for that tactile, snappy, fast attack and decay because it's really fast with this combination. Now next, I tried the AXXES Forte. And this combination was again snappy, tactile, and fast, just like the Evo 150. But I found that there's two different things that's happening in comparison to the Evo 150 combination going on. First is that the bass control with the AXXES Forte on these speakers is absolutely nuts. Like you can hear the stop and the retract and stop. Like it's so well controlled. Like you feel the amplifier controlling that bass. It's so tactile, so punchy and dynamic, but it's so exact. Like if you don't like clean bass, this is not it for you, but this is very, very quick and exact, which I found to be quite amazing. And the second thing that I found a little bit different from the Evo 150 was that the Evo 150, like I said, was a little bit bright for my liking. So when I play warm tracks, right, it sounded brighter. Not like bright as in aggressive to my ears, but you know how like it sounds more lifted and brighter than what you're used to with that recording? I got that with the Evo 150. I found warmer tracks that I knew very well to sound more brighter and more lifelike, lively than I know them to be. With the AXXES Forte, that didn't quite happen. It didn't make warm recordings sound brighter, but when it comes to brighter recordings, again, EDM, hard rock, stuff that has sibilance, metal, it did get quite bright, quite fast for me. Soundstage was again about the same as the Evo 150, so nothing to really note there, nothing crazy. But overall, I would say personally, I think I like the AXXES Forte with the Crescendo MKII better than the Evo 150. But I would say that the AXXES Forte does have a drier vocal range with the Crescendo MKII. It sounds a little bit too dry for personal liking. So it's a trade-off. I don't like either of them, to be honest with you. The Evo 150 and the AXXES Forte, they're great all-in-ones, but with certain speakers like the Crescendo MKII, so I'm specifically talking about the pairing here. I'm not talking about individual, because like I said, these are great integrated all-in-ones that I have tried with other speakers that sound wonderful. It's just that with these speakers, it wasn't my favorite. But I'm including it because it's still a good match. It's just not my preference, but I can see how other people will appreciate it. And this speaker really has the capability to take on the characteristic of the amplifier really well. It changes quite drastically depending on the amplifier. So I just thought it would make sense to include those as well, even if it's not my preference. So that's pretty much it from me. I hope this video was enjoyable. I had a blast trying all these different amplifiers with these speakers because it changed so drastically. Absolutely love the design, absolutely love the sound. I think it's a great loudspeaker for someone, and it's gonna make someone very happy when you pair it up with the right amplifier combination. So that's pretty much it from me. I hope this video was enjoyable, and if it was, please click that like button and subscribe for more videos just like this, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Until next time. And of course, it has that waveguide for the tweeter, which allows the dispersion and the sweet spot to be larger, but it also has the diapolito configuration that naturally helps with dispersion as well. So it's a double win there.